it up. Okay, so let's start this demo quickly. This is for assignment fruit bowl. Can't remember the number, 5 or 6. So I grabbed images from the web, right? Grapes, a banana, and some orange, and an orange with a leaf. You don't have to have the leaf on. So we're going to start with the more difficult one. We're going to start with the banana. So first, use your pen tool to just trace it very quickly. It may not look very, very pretty, but this is for demo purposes. So don't hate me, right? So I'm just going to do that very, very quickly. And you're going to be like, how it is that it does it so fast? Again, I press my Alt key or Option key to split my handles. And then I'm going to do it very quickly that way. Of course, I have it on fill, so that doesn't really help me. We're going to do that on red so we can see what we're doing here. Right here, give or take. It doesn't have to be perfect at this point. Okay, so here I have my basic shape, right? So I'm going to move it out of the way. And what I'm going to do here, first, I'm going to make it yellow, right? So it's not too bright on the eyes. And so for the banana part, I need to use the mesh tool. The mesh tool functions like this. Any object that you have, and I'm going to show it just with a big red bigger square right now, is you use the mesh tool, and then everywhere that you click within the object, it basically sections the object. It doesn't break it into multiple objects. It's still the same, but it just sections it. So every time I click, it creates this grid, and the object is still in one piece. I cannot select just one corner and then move it around. Oh, I can, but it's still attached to the rest. I cannot separate it, right, basically, right? And then every anchor that I have right there, I can change the color. So if I switch over, for example, and I want to make that, let's say, red, it creates basically kind of like a highlight in this particular spot. And I can switch all of those colors. I can select multiple points at one point at one time and make it green, etc. So this is what we're going to use for the banana, basically, right? So we're going to just delete that, and I'm going to use the mesh tool, and you can see there's kind of one that the shape of it kind of follows a little bit of a ridge here. There's another highlight right here. So we're going to try to create a few of those shapes. So we're going to click right there, and it really messes it up. So we'll see if we can actually use that. The mesh tool is a bit of a tricky, as I said, tricky tool to use. So maybe something like this, right? And it's really wonky on this side right here. So you can zoom in, and again, with your direct selection tool, you can select each and individual anchors. You can split the path. You can change all that stuff, and it makes some weird shapes sometimes. So it's a little bit wonky. But each of those anchors that you select right here can have a different color. And then here, I'm going to use my eyedropper tool right here, and I'm going to pick the color from the banana right here. And then again, by pressing my Alt or Option key right there, Command key, which is controllable even on the PC, you can switch your tool to the selection without having to switch away from your eyedropper. So you still have your eyedropper tool. You just press and hold your Command key on the Mac or Control on the PC, and then you select different anchors like this, and then move your selection tool, your eyedropper tool, into the different spots. So that's kind of like the idea, right? So you can just try to I missed that one. Try to highlight that, and then again, try to create a fake, basically fake 3D, object, basically out of this. And that's why I'm clicking and I'm using an existing image just to see. Oh, and this is not going to happen very easily. And again, you can just work with the swatches that you already have to add a little bit of green, or and at this point, again, it's for demo. It doesn't have to be super pretty, but I'm just doing this quickly just to demonstrate how the mesh tool functions. Basically, each and individual anchors there can be a different color. Now, this banana is really perfect. And usually they have those little brown spots, you know, so it's nice and ripe. So I'm going to use my ellipse tool right here, and I'm just going to create 2 or 3 spots right there. So I'm going to put one here, another one in there, and then a smaller one right there. And what I want to do is select all 3. I press my shift key, select 3 objects at once. I want to switch to a gradient, my gradient tool right here. So there's my gradient panel right there, and then there's also my gradient tool right here. So right now, there's no gradient. It's filled with solid green. And so I'm going to just, you know, click on that to click to activate. So right now it's going to be, by default, it's always a radial linear gradient, sorry. And it's always about black and white until you change it. So I want to switch it to a radial gradient. So, you know, from the center out. And I want to switch my color. So right now it starts from the center. It goes from the white to the black. So what I could do is I could switch those sliders right there, and you can see what it does. And it can, you know, if you can do this, and then I switch my colors as quickly like this. The other quicker way is that little icon below right there. It says reverse gradient. And you by just clicking on that, it just switches from left to right, or from center out to center, or vice versa. Each of those spots within your gradient panel, I'm just going to separate it from the menu right here. Each of those can have a different color as well. By default, they're black and white. But you just pick, you know, from your swatches right there, you pick the brown, right? Dark brown. And then what you do is you drag this little corner, this little square, I mean, the color swatch right there, and you just drag it into your gradient. So by adding it right there, you can see the little plus, and it adds a new brown spot, right? I haven't replaced my black spot. So to get rid of this one, you just drag it off. There you go, let go of it. Again, I'm just going to drag that over, and then actually I'm going to put it right on my black dot right there. I'm going to replace the black with the brown, and there it is. Now there's only a brown to brown, right? Brown to white, I mean. So that's how it looks. So it doesn't look like a brown spot to me yet. So I'm going to modify this gradient. I'm just going to make it a little tighter like this. And instead of going from brown, I mean, to white, I'm going to go from brown to brown. And why is that? Because what you can do here is each of those color spots in your gradient can have a different opacity. So that's why I want to make it, you know, let's say 85% opaque. And then this one down there at the end, I want to make it to 0. And there's my spot right there. So that's the quickest way to create those little weird brown spots. But the thing is, like, they look perfectly circular, and then, you know, nothing is perfectly circular and geometric in nature. So you switch over to your gradient tool right here instead of the gradient panel, and you select each individual object. And here you have this little slider, which basically matches your gradient panel right there. You can, you know, you can modify it individually. But what you can do as well, you can also rotate. So in this case, it doesn't make any difference because the gradient itself is still circular. But here, by hovering over the black dot over, now you can make your gradient into a flatter kind of spot. And you can see the numbers changing right here as well in your gradient panel. So you can do it by using the math, or you can use the gradient tool and then just do it visually. And at this point, again, you can rotate it, right? You can just, you know, there you go, like this. So you rotate your gradient, not the object. And then again, there's my brown spot that looks a little bit more natural. I'm not going to bother with the other two. I just wanted to show you that. So you go from brown to brown, and then you added transparency. So it goes from brown basically to 100%. If this one was white, as an example, if this one was white instead of brown, well, it goes from brown to white to transparent. But in the middle here, it gets a little murky, and you get this little weird white halo around it, and you don't want that. You want to go from, again, one color, 100% of the same color, but from 100 to 0% opacity. So that's how to use the mesh tool and how to create those kind of like weird kind of brown banana spots on it. Second one is, I'm just going to do that with the orange right here. I have this one which is cut in half, so I'm going to ignore this part right here, but I want to just, you know, use this one that has a little bit of the texture to it. So again, same thing. I'm going to create an orange. Oh, I still have that on the gradient fill, unfortunately. So I'm just going to pick an orange fill right there, and I'm just going to create a circle quickly. And again, this is nature, so circles do not exist in nature. So I'm going to just grab each anchors and little handles, and I'm just going to make it a little bit of a wonky shape, not too much because it's still it's still an orange. It doesn't have to look like a weird potato. And I'm going to do the exact same thing. I'm going to create a gradient in there again, but this time I'm going to use a proper gradient. So I'm just going to activate the gradient again, but I'm just going to switch my color, right? And then again, switch my color over here, make it back to 100%. And again, I have, switch my color right here. And I have again my spot right there, and then that spot again. So you can, you can rotate, you can squeeze it, right? You can turn it around, etc., etc. But what you can do as well is, by default, it starts from the center. But here, you want to just move it up, and then you can create it wherever you want, wherever you click and drag your gradient tool. So I want to have a little bit of a 3D looking, because it's a sphere-ish looking shape. So I want to put my highlight slightly off center. So this is just to learn how to use all those gradients and how to have them, how they function, etc., etc. And in this case, we want to add a texture to that orange. So we're going to just go under effects, and we're going to find, I'm trying to remember where they are. They are under effects, artistic right there. And then if you click on any of those, it'll open up a new window. And hopefully that is being shared. And I'm thinking maybe not, because it's a new window and I'm not sure. That's the problem of Zoom. Anyways, so it opens up I'm going to describe it quickly. It opens up a little panel that has a list of all the effects that you have, and then there's your object. And if you switch over to the different textures, just explore a little bit, it's like cutout, film grain, etc., etc. You also have sliders on the side where you can add the amount of grain, the highlight area, the intensity, etc. So each of those filters has different specs, right? So I'm going to choose sponge because it has a little bit of an orange kind of skin texture. I'm going to reduce the size of the brush size. I'm going to increase, I'm going to decrease, sorry, the definition, because I don't want it to be too strong. I want to add a little smoothness to it. I'm just going to click OK, just as a demo right there. And here, now it's applied a texture to it, right? So again, you can create a lot of those different textures to find the right highlight, etc. So just by changing the gradient of your object as well, that allows to have also a little bit of a better, a bit more realistic texture kind of thing, just by changing your gradient a little bit. So I'm not going to go into all the details. If you want to create the leaf, etc., etc., the leaf would take a little longer to recreate. So I'm not going to go over that. But basically, that's kind of it, right? Kind of thing. So, you can always add some little spots of highlights. Again, do a little drop shadow underneath, for example. So you just create a little oval, arrange, and then move it to the back, send to back. And then I'm just going to create my a little bit of a gradient from black to white this time, right? So black to white. I'm just going to replace those, get rid of the one in the orange, just drag it off, add the white right there, something along that line. And because this is too strong, if I want to pick a color between the black and the white right there, if I want to click, what I want to have a lighter kind of gray, I just click right there in my gradient panel tool right there, and you see the little arrow has a little plus, and just by clicking there, it adds a new spot, and then I can get rid of the solid black, and then now it's kind of like a light gray to white. And again, switch back to my gradient tool, make it, squeeze it down, rotate it to the right spot, because right now it's all over the place. And I want to try to match the shape of this thing. It's a little bit all over the place right now. So come on, work with me here. It's a little tricky to work sometimes when you're too far away from it. There it is. No, that's not it. It doesn't want to work with me today. There it is. Jeez. it's a little too dark. It's actually too light, actually. So I'm just going to switch that to a darker color. Anyways, so just to show, that you can create quick little shadows underneath. So it looks a little bit more realistic. You won't need the shadow in the bowl, of course, but you might apply a shadow underneath the bowl. So for the grapes, what we're going to do is just going to show you a few examples away. Again, same thing. I'm just going to go with a solid purple right there. I'm just going to make an oval this time. And again, same thing. There's no real geometric shapes in nature. So I'm just going to, move it around so it's not too geometric looking. And I'm just going to develop, just make one or two of them. So again, same thing here. I'm going to use my gradient tool, but this time instead of the radial, linear, or radial that we used earlier, I'm going to use the freeform gradient right here. And that is taking a minute, of course, as I want to demonstrate something. There it is. So the freeform gradient allows you to have multiple colors within one gradient. And you can see within this shape right there, I currently have a white right there, but I can change it to pink. And then I have this awful looking, ochre looking color. So I can pick a raspberry color, and I can add as many colors as I want. I can add a blue right there. I can add, first you need to click on the object, and then you can drag the color over. And again, each of those colors can be picked. So you select that and use your eyedropper tool, right? And then you, oops, sorry, wrong thing, sorry. Come on. Come on, what's going on here? Hello, there it is. Okay, so each of those colors can be picked from, oh, come on, work with me here. Okay, I don't know what's going on here. Nope, work with me. I'm getting some delay for some reason. There it is. There you go, my color right here. You can pick within your gradient panel right here, you have your color picker right here. And because I picked an image from the web, I can pick the color right here from this reddish looking one. And I can select this one, and then again, pick that color. And then this one right here, I pick that color, etc., etc. So, and you can just, again, you can, add whatever color you need. Oh, it's white by default. Okay, sure. And then you create those 3D-ish looking organic shapes kind of thing, right? And then trying to pick the colors straight from a photograph. Again, so you can use the same tool as we did here to create those little highlights. Remember those little brown spots? You do the same thing here. I'm just going to copy that one and move it right here. And then instead of having a brown spot, I want to have a white spot. So I just go from white to white. Same thing here. Again, so white to white, to transparent, and then here you have little highlights. The cool thing about this is you can reverse that, and then suddenly you have a bit of an eye drop, right? So you change your opacity right here to 60. It's not exactly perfect by any means, but it kind of looks like an eye drop if you want to be a little bit more precise, right? And then duplicate that one. A little bit of water drops right there on it, right? So you can do something like this, right? It's fun. So explore those tools, have some fun with them. And again, I grabbed an image straight from the web to be able to recreate those colors, and they're really, really wonky, but hey, try your best. Now the best part, I leave it for the last, is how to create the bowl. So I'm just going to add an artboard. And so you can do the basic shapes, right? So you can do, let me pick some colors first. Blend, very boring. So you can be, there's the top of my bowl, or the inside of my bowl, right? And then I'm going to create a shape down here to make it look like it's a bowl, right? So you can do this. You can create a shape like this. You can select that anchor right there, and then copy that anchor. So if you select and copy an anchor, it'll select and copy the path in front and behind that anchor. So if I paste it, this is what you get, right? You get basically half of the oval I just made. So if I copy that and then paste in front, so I go under edit and I go paste in front, so it's going to be at the exact same location. I can change the color so we can see it. Now I can use my pen tool right here. I can, just by hovering over the one of the anchors, you can see the slash, and then that I can create another anchor right here, and then lock it right there, and then I have a bowl. Right? It looks really, really awful. So you can do something like this and then place your objects in there. And that's, you know, and we're going to go over that. Excuse me. Another trick is to use rotate, the rotate and revolve tool. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do just as a demo, a plain circle. And again, I'm going to select with my direct selection tool, I'm going to delete one of the anchors on the left-hand side. So I have a half a circle, right? And then switch it to a stroke. Here, so we can see it. And here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select it, and then I'm going to go under Effect, 3D, Revolve. And this is what it does. Basically, it spins the object from the center, from the center of the object, and spins it around, so it makes it look like it's a sphere. And by default, because it's a sphere, it's not going to change very much. The perspective, the off-axis, front, etc., is not going to change because you're creating a sphere. However, you can change your shading. So you can do wireframe, no shading at all, diffuse shading, so it makes it a little softer, or plastic shading. So we don't want to keep it in that. By clicking on more options, that allows you to actually move the spotlight. You can add a spotlight as well and move that one around. And you can change the light intensity of the second one as well. So it's just by, you know, using all the sliders here at your disposal. So explore that. But what I want to do, instead of this bowl, or instead of this sphere, I mean, which is a half a circle right here, is I want to create a bowl out of it. So I have, just to modifying the shape right there, just by dragging it down, there, I have a bowl. Extending this out, etc., etc. So just by doing this, come on, right there. And there you go. You have a different shape right there. So you have a bowl right here. So another cool thing about this tool right there is if you want to modify it, of course, you have to go to your appearance palette right there. And then you have your 3D revolve, your opacity, etc., etc., etc. So you click back on your 3D revolve effect right here, and you're back into this little dialog window. And the cool thing about this is you can do a map art. So you have to have symbols first in your library. If you click on that, you have, I'm going to try to move all those windows out of the way. You have, basically, it maps this 3D object into, in this particular case, there's only four surfaces, right? And just by clicking over into surface 1, 2, 3, 4, this is what you have, right? So here, I'm thinking that's the outside of it. We're going to try at this point. And then all you have to do here is you pick your symbol from your library right here, and we're going to just go use the vector grime. There you go. And by moving this around, it appears on your 3D object right here. You can scale it. You can move it around. And then you have it on your bowl, basically, on the outside of your bowl. If you have, again, your symbol palette right open right here, you can double click on your symbol, and you can edit that symbol as well. You can change the color of it, such as, we're going to make it green, for example, and as soon as you get out of that, it should change. Oh, it didn't change. It didn't change in my, I thought it would change in my bowl. I guess not. Oh, somebody's on, I'm going to mute that person if I can. There. There you go. So that's how to create a 3D bowl, basically, you know, in a few minutes. It's far from perfect, but it's just for demo purposes. So what I want to do now is I want to bring all of those elements, right, into the bowl. So I want to create a clipping mask. So I'm just going to grab those two over. I'm just going to duplicate them over. And I'm just going to move them over here. This guy will be about right here. I want to move them to the font. I'm using a shortcut to move them to the font. And then there's my orange right here. I want to place it about right here in the bowl. And then the banana, I want to move it around like this. And I want to put it about right here in front of the orange. And then the problem is like now they're on top, right? So they're not inside my bowl. So what I need to create here is I need to create a clipping mask. So what I want to do is I want to make something quite visible. So I'm going to make it yellow. And all I want to do is I want to create an oval quickly. So approximately from the center out, and I want to try to find the same curve as the bowl, approximately here. It's not perfect, but it's tells me that it's about the right location. So make sure it's above all your objects that you want to put inside your clipping mask. So again, you select your fruits right there. By pressing and holding your shift key, you select your line, basically your object that you want to create that you want to make, that as a clipping mask. And so make sure you have everything selected except the bowl, of course. And you right click on it and go make clipping mask. And now my fruits are inside that shape. So that shape is now, of course, invisible, right? Because there's no fill, no stroke, right? You can add a stroke to your clipping mask, but it's not necessarily in this case, but you can, right? You can add a color to it or do whatever, and it's just for visibility so you can see it. And then again, here you need to expand it out, right? Because this is where your fruit gets cut off right there. Same thing here. I'm using the shortcut here, which is Command Y or Control Y to switch between preview and outline. But all I have to do here again with my direct selection tool, and just expand it, expand it out. And because it's still too small, I'm just going to expand it quite big like this. And there's my clipping mask right there. And now I can get rid of that color on that clipping mask. And my objects look like they are inside the bowl. So it's not exactly perfect, of course, because it's a quick demo. But if you spend a little bit of time with it, you can be a little bit more precise, and it looks quite real, just like that. So that's basically, in a nutshell, that's assignment number, I can't remember which one it is, 6. I think it's 6 in a nutshell. So keep everything in the same layer, right? Just make different artboards, because if you have multiple objects and you're trying to, on different layers, and you're trying to make a clipping mask out of that, and you have, again, 3 objects and 3 layers, it's not going to work. So keep everything on the same layer. It's easier that way. And just recreate them on different artboards, and then just duplicate them and then assemble them in the last layer at the end here. Here, I'm just going to expand this. There's my shadow right there. There you go. It looks like it's floating a little bit, so not the best shadow ever, but doesn't matter. So that's basically it. And I apologize for the background noise and me coughing, as I had a cat in my throat.